What if I told you motivation doesn't come from one big decision? Most people believe change happens in a dramatic turning point, a speech, a scare, a sudden realization. And that's why they stay stuck, because dramatic moments feel powerful. But that feeling fades. The brain loves intensity, but it adapts quickly. Eventually, the spike drops and the old baseline returns. Real change is often quiet, coming from consistent changes that are invisible at first. You may feel like you're just incapable and you lack discipline or talent, but neuroscience points to a deeper explanation. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, responds to what you do often, not what you do once. The brain rewires itself through repetition, not intensity. Every small action sends a signal, and every repetition lays a thin wire. At first it feels like nothing, but those wires bundle, strengthen, and become more and more automatic. In this video, I'm going to share 9 psychological triggers that boost motivation on demand. They won't feel dramatic, these won't go viral or give you a cinematic montage moment, but they quietly reshape your baseline, helping you generate the motivation you need to create the life you want. Let's get into them. Trigger 1. Reduce friction by 5%. Motivation is heavily influenced by cognitive load, which is the amount of mental effort your brain must use. Your brain is like a cautious gatekeeper. If it senses high effort, it assumes high energy cost and quietly closes the gate. When you slightly reduce friction, laying out your shoes, opening the document you need to read, or shrinking your task into smaller chunks, you lower the perceived cost of entry. This lowers the cognitive load and the brain no longer sounds the alarm. This also raises dopamine, the brain's chemical linked to anticipation and pursuit, because it makes the task feel more achievable. You're not just becoming productive, you're reinforcing your identity as someone who starts your tasks. Trigger 2. Move your body for 2 minutes. You don't need a full workout, just 2 minutes. This regulates your nervous system and lowers cortisol, a stress hormone that suppresses motivation. Movement signals safety and capability. It tells your brain, we're not under threat. When cortisol drops and blood flow increases, the prefrontal cortex, your brain's decision-making center, comes back online. You're not just waking up your muscles, you're teaching your brain that you are someone who acts even when you don't feel like it. Trigger 3. Label your emotion before you act. Emotional labeling reduces amygdala activity. The amygdala is a small, almond-shaped structure deep in your brain that scans for threat. Think of it like a smoke detector, and when it goes off, it floods you with hesitation, tension, and avoidance. A difficult task can register as a risk, setting off this alarm before you consciously decide anything. When you step back, saying, I feel overwhelmed, or I feel bored, this shifts activity to the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain. This regulates your nervous system regulation in real time, and instead of being controlled by emotion, you become someone who observes it, someone who responds, not reacts. Trigger 4. Stabilize your blood sugar. Low blood sugar increases irritability and reduces executive function in your brain. It also raises cortisol. When your energy crashes, motivation feels impossible. A small protein-based snack or consistent meal timing aligns with your circadian rhythm, your internal clock that regulates energy and alertness. This isn't about diet culture, it's about biological stability. Stable energy creates stable effort, and stable effort teaches your brain that consistency is normal. Trigger 5. Shrink the goal until it feels almost too easy. Behavioral momentum works like pushing a heavy car. The first inch is the hardest, but once it moves, it's easier to keep it rolling. When you shrink a task to something almost embarrassingly small, like write 1 sentence or read 1 page, you bypass decision fatigue. This happens when too many choices drain your mental energy. Starting small helps you build momentum, and momentum builds dopamine. Dopamine increases your drive, which increases your ability to follow through. Trigger 6. Create a visible streak. The brain responds strongly to the scarcity principle and loss aversion. The scarcity principle means we place higher value on things that feel limited or hard to regain. And loss aversion means that losses register more intensely than wins. Basically, we hate losing what we've built. A simple calendar mark or habit tracker creates visual proof of consistency, creating an emotional weight that makes us more motivated to not break it. Each mark also reinforces self-trust, and self-trust is one of the strongest motivational forces. When you see yourself as someone who keeps promises, motivation stops being emotional. It becomes structural. Trigger 7. Control your first 5 minutes after waking. Your circadian rhythm sets the tone for dopamine release throughout the day. If the first input is chaotic, like scrolling, stress, or noise, you spike and crash. On the other hand, if the first 5 minutes are intentional, like exposure to light, a drink of water, or completing a simple task, you anchor your nervous system. The brain loves patterns, and repeated morning control signals it that you're someone who directs the day instead of reacting to it. That subtle baseline shift compounds into greater rewards. Trigger 8. Use implementation intentions. This is a simple if-then plan. If it's 6 p.m., then I study for 10 minutes. If I feel resistance, then I do 2 minutes. This reduces cognitive load because the decision is pre-made. The brain expends less of its processing power in the executive function for debating. It simply executes. Think of it like programming a shortcut key. Fewer decisions mean less decision fatigue, and less fatigue means more action. You become someone who acts automatically in alignment with your goals. Trigger 9. Keep one small promise to yourself every day, especially when you don't feel like it. Maybe it's making your bed when you're tired. Maybe it's reading 5 minutes of your book when you want to go straight to sleep. This builds self-trust at a neurological level. Each completed promise strengthens neural pathways tied to agency and control. The predictive brain updates its model to, we are someone who follows through. And that reinforcement changes everything. Motivation becomes less necessary because integrity takes over. You act not because you feel inspired, but because it's who you are. Growth isn't about dramatic reinvention. It's about facing small daily resistance. The brain adapts to what you repeatedly tolerate. If you repeatedly tolerate quitting, quitting becomes automatic. If you repeatedly tolerate mild discomfort, resilience becomes automatic. Neuroplasticity does not judge intensity. It records repetition. Your life doesn't change in one loud moment. It changes in quiet repetition. When small wins stack, when momentum builds, when neural rewiring happens beneath the surface, invisible progress eventually becomes visible results. Microhabits don't feel powerful today. They don't look impressive or win you applause, but they reinforce your identity, teaching your brain who you are. Which one are you starting today? Let me know in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe for more ways to use neuroscience to improve your life.